This week, connecting at-risk communities. Throw in some shapes in the living room.
So begins the end.
And, good to see my mum's on TV again. Hey, welcome to Click. I don't know what it's like where you are, but things still feel a bit up and down to me at the moment. Some are heading into new lockdowns, some are coming out of lockdowns, some have access to the vaccine and some don't. But you may just be feeling now like there is some light at the end of the tunnel.
But of course, for many, the impact on their mental health has been huge, and that's not necessarily going to ease just because lockdown is. And of course, people may have many other struggles to deal with as well.
And that's what our first piece this week is about. It's from Nick Queck in Australia, and it's about suicide. So it's going to discuss some issues that you might find upsetting.
Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are twice as likely to end their own lives as non-Indigenous Australians. And the majority of them are young men. Some are even younger.
Now, the government and other organisations are looking at ways that technology could help. Here's Nick.
There's been heaps of funerals.
It's just a vicious cycle.
There was one year here in community where we had about 8 or 9 suicides, and it just became the norm. And I feel like they're getting younger and younger. And when you hear about them, 9, 10 years old committing suicide, I think about myself as 9 or 10 years old, I didn't even know what that was.
Suicide is the leading cause of death among young Australians. For Indigenous people, the statistics are even more shocking, with almost 1 in 20 taking their lives. Cultural dislocation, personal trauma, ongoing disadvantage and racism are just some contributing factors.
My mother's Kamilaroi and my father's Muddy Muddy, Tari Tari, Lachi Lachi. Quite often as an Aboriginal person, the cards are laid out for you. There's a lot of stigma. You start to believe that you're no good, or that it's cursed to be an Aboriginal person, or they say it's cursed to be black. And I suppose I wanted to build visual dreaming for a younger generation to be proud of who they are, and to be comfortable in their own skin, and to be in a world where we're all equal.
Leanne is the founder of Visual Dreaming, an online social and support network where users set goals and receive encouragement from community elders, who in turn connect them with tradition.
You want someone to ask if you're okay, but you can't actually get the words out of your mouth to say I'm not okay. And so from discussion with young ones, we found that they would be more comfortable to communicate that through their phone.
Cheryl has been helping develop the app.
Like we've done for thousands of years, our elders have guided our young people, so. But there's just been a bit of a disconnect, so I think it's really important that we can start in some way to bring that back together. A really good friend of mine, a younger one, she killed herself, and that was heartbreaking. A young woman in her 30s in the prime of her life. There's been heaps of funerals.
It's a problem within our Aboriginal communities, and it's everybody's problem, and we just need to identify it. And the app's the ideal thing to start educating community. I worked in health for 28 years. These younger people have got no employment. There's no incentive to get out of bed of a morning or anything like that. It's just a vicious cycle.
Bernard ended up in the emergency department 3 years ago after a suicide attempt.
Do you think if you had an app like this back then that it would have made a difference?
If I had something like the app and the connections with elders and stuff that I have now, it would have been night and day difference. If someone else can see that you're struggling and they reach out to you and go, hey, I notice you might be having a tough time, it sort of can break through that darkness a little bit and go, oh, someone actually does care.
Did know the country, did speak to.
So what was your inspiration behind starting Visual Dreaming?
When I used to hear about suicide, I used to be quite sad for the families until you go through it yourself. Oh my God. And you see how much it just takes, just changes your world. When Dallas passed away, I had been through my own mental health journey, and I really got scared that I was going to get sick again. And I just turned my pain into solution to be able to honour him. We just got to try something.
Leanne isn't alone. Mental health non-profit the Black Dog Institute has been trialling similar support services like iBobbly with encouraging early results.
Using the app will feel like you're having a yarn with a family member.
The Institute has also rolled out classroom software in schools that aims to screen for depression and anxiety in teenagers, allowing counsellors to intervene. And in a research project, it's also trialling computer-assisted monitoring of CCTV footage of a Sydney suicide hotspot to ultimately prevent deaths. For every one suicide, there are over 20 attempts, so documenting these properly is crucial to understanding the issue. Addiction research body Turning Point has been manually analysing ambulance records pertaining to suicide for years. Now, with backing from Google, it's developing an artificial intelligence to help workers like Melissa.
We would be coding their desire to hurt themselves in this state as a suicidal ideation.
The AI has been trained on several million records and is able to filter out 2/3 of them before they reach anyone's inbox. At around 95% accurate, it's akin to a human annotator.
Our AI system is built on top of some very complex language models.
So he's also had some alcohol, which we will code, and as far as the mental health screen, we will code that he is agitated.
The project has enlisted the expertise of Monash University and is part of Australia's first national self-harm and suicide monitoring system. As well as informing government policy with emerging trends in hotspots, it's hoped the data will lead to better targeted responses.
A real concern, and we have to share this, is that the AI in its operating is going to maybe throw away some critical records. We have to tune what we call the confidence. The deep network has to know what it doesn't know. But, and I think we're seeing it in our data, they can actually improve on the humans. So that comes from the...
Yeah, that's from it.
Down the road, researchers hope that AI will also be able to front-load difficult and limit intense records to reduce exposure and fatigue. And with Australian suicide rates continuing to rise, this is an issue where innovation could prove truly vital.
Nick there with some sobering stories. And if you've been affected by anything you saw in his report, then services that offer support can be found at bbc.co.uk/actionline. Now, throughout the course of the pandemic, many more of us have been making digital doctor's appointments, and it seems that this is a trend which isn't going away.
As restrictions ease, it should be getting easier to see a doctor in real life. But video consultations, which went mainstream in the pandemic, are here to stay. The likes of Push Doctor and Babylon have offered digital consultations through the UK's National Health Service for some time. But new specialist services are on the up too.
This instant messaging app provides immediate reassurance and guidance from experienced paediatricians.
First-time mum Hannah started using Juno after having twins Leo and Zander.
I thought there might be something going on that they'd caught between them, and I just felt a bit isolated, and I really wanted some real-time advice.
Sometimes all you need is to be able to say, is this normal? So we're trying to really filter the things that parents don't need to worry about and escalate the things that they do need to worry about. And actually instant messaging is a really good way of doing that.
I'm scared. Until now, Juno has been free, but it is due to become a subscription service, and its 12 hours a day support is set to become available 24/7.
There's definitely a chance that parents might overuse it and create more worry.
baby boy.
There's also no guarantee that you'll get the same consultant every time, but the checkup I did for my 8-year-old daughter's eczema did go smoothly. I uploaded some photographs. You can upload video as well if you want to, and the consultation did provide me with a really useful treatment plan. The only issue was that if I was then to use the cream I needed, well, I still would need a prescription from a doctor to be able to get it. But this isn't just about healthcare for kids. Lots of NHS apps now help with specific conditions, connecting you to experts and other patients going through the same illnesses.
So Googling to find resources and find information for your condition topic can be a wild west, and it can be scary.
The social network Health Unlocked has 700 condition-focused online communities, and they're all monitored by official health charities.
So you're connecting with a group of thousands of other patients with the collective experience of, many, many years. The charity partners of the communities also provide that extra level of access to resources and knowledge and understanding.
Of course, there'll always be times when visiting a GP is best, but perhaps the worried hours spent searching symptoms online could soon become a thing of the past, as expert answers could just be a few taps away too.
Hello and welcome to the Week in Tech. It was the week that an ex-aide said former US President Donald Trump could launch his own social media rival to Twitter in the coming months. Elon Musk announced it's now possible to buy a Tesla with the cryptocurrency Bitcoin. And a new image showing a sharper black hole with a clearer view of surrounding magnetic fields was released by the Event Horizon telescope team. It was also the week that Facebook discovered that Chinese hackers have been targeting Uyghurs living outside the country. The social media network said the malicious activity was coming from a group called Evil Eye. Malware was spread through fake websites mimicking popular Uyghur and Turkish news pages. Facebook is banned in China. Slack released a feature which allowed direct messaging between people at different companies, but said it made a mistake and quickly removed the ability to send a message to people alongside email invitations. Concerns were raised that this could lead to harassment. Nintendo and Niantic, the company behind Pokemon Go, announced a long-term deal to collaborate on augmented reality apps. Their first release will be a new Pikmin mobile AR game, which is due later this year. And finally this week, researchers have revealed they've found a way to deliver drugs using microscopic robots into the brains of mice. Published in the journal Science Robotics, microbots coated in E. coli tricked the immune system of the mice into attacking them. The microbots managed to cross the blood-brain barrier to deliver drugs targeted at hard-to-reach tissues.
These ultra close-up photos were taken on a smartphone with a microscope camera. This is the Oppo Find X3 Pro, and the company says the micro camera can pick up things you can't see with the naked eye. It's good enough to get right down into the individual fibers of my shirt here. To use it, you need to be about 1 to 3 millimeters away from whatever you're trying to take a picture of, which is very close. So I found it easiest to sort of lean the phone on the item that I was trying to take a photo of, and then just rock it back and forwards to find the sweet spot so you could get everything in focus. Obviously, being that close to the object blocks out all the light, so the lens has a little ring light around it to illuminate the subject. Now, obviously, the first thing I did when I got this was shove it in my eye and try and take an iris photo. This was the best I got, but then I went around the house taking pictures of literally anything I could find. Oppo says this is offering 60 times magnification, so it's not close enough to see the individual cells in your skin or in a plant, but it's still very cool. Of course, now the novelty of running around my flat taking pictures of everything has worn off. I'm left wondering how useful this is. I can think of a few examples where it could be useful if I'm being generous. Perhaps if you're trying to identify the stamp on some jewelry, or need a super close-up of a circuit board to check on your soldering. Maybe there's someone watching this who will be like, oh, this is exactly what I've been looking for on a smartphone. That's perfect for taking photos of my butterfly collection. I don't know. Oppo is promising 2 versions of Android and at least 2 years of security updates for the phone.
I remember when Apple added a super wide camera to the iPhone and social media was flooded with very mundane super wide shots of people's living rooms. I imagine if this catches on, we'd see a lot of super close-up photos on social media, at least for a few days. But it's always nice to see something new added to a smartphone. I'm sure people will get creative with something like this, and maybe some people will even find it very useful too.
Oh, your employees, Spencer and Romana. Well, head to the boardroom. Dave will see you there.
Off we go.
Going backwards.
Today, we're popping into our new office to see what all the fuss is about. And here's the boss.
Can either of you help me to understand these lackluster results?
It's the meanest chicken I've ever worked for.
Okay, this is Corptopia, an interactive live play over Zoom. Actors take you through the story, and every so often you get to use your facial expressions and hand gestures to play some games. Now, before we started, we were asked to download special animated virtual backgrounds and also facial filters, which are run through the free app Snap Camera.
This is a format. It could work for escape rooms, it could work for crime drama, it could work for education, it could work for kids shows, giving a stream of work to actors and musicians and production staff where people could remotely work anywhere to put on these shows regularly.
This nutty experience was started through Creative XR, a 3-month acceleration program which helps artists to create new immersive projects for the arts and culture scene. It's given funding and mentorship to several projects, which begs the question, are there any even more immersive experiences in the works? The answer, of course there are. Oh, what the heck, I'll join in. Which is why later that day, I'm in my living room, prancing about in my dancing pants. Oh, hello. I'm experiencing Dazzle, where I'm getting on down with some monochromatic movers. Some are human, some are a kind of cross between the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and the Garignac rock creature from Galaxy Quest.
I would say it's a spectacular, dazzling, immersive experience which combines elements of performance and costume and sort of theatricality. And it's really like the Dazzle Ball, the original, was a huge party, and we're just trying to give you that kind of experience at home.
Ooh, this is big psychedelica. Talk of big psychedelica, that's big psychedelica, I assume. My goodness, you're enormous. There are 4 scenes to experience, each with a different feel. Here, I'm accompanied by Gianta Ross and the Supremes, and in this one, which feels like I'm on the set of a Broadway melody film from the 30s, I get to can-can with some spirals and ballet dance with an Enderman from Minecraft.
We've been developing a sort of plugin, and this enables us to capture in real time performers in our motion capture studio, and we can beam live mocap into the virtual spaces. So instead of seeing pre-recorded movement material, you're actually getting live performers.
It's a crazy pastime for crazy times, and it's an opportunity for artists and performers alike to try something new on a captive audience. Quick reminder though, VR may be immersive, but you are not really there, you are really here, so don't get too carried away. I just punched the ceiling. Ow.
It's all very well that you can mark out your boundaries in VR in the room, but it doesn't account for ceiling height.
No, it doesn't. And I put a hole in the plasterwork, don't tell anyone. Anyway, let's move on. Lara Lewington, I know how you love a good superhero movie.
I was in one, Superman Returns.
This is true, actually. I'd forgotten this. Gather round, everyone. This is Lara's best story ever.
I don't know about that. I was presenting the weather on a monitor in the Daily Planet newsroom.
Show business! Well, anyway, Superman returned again in Justice League 4 years ago, along with Wonder Woman, Batman and others. And the response from the audience was a bit meh. The problem was, as the crew finished filming, director Zack Snyder stepped away from the project for personal reasons. The movie was eventually completed, but with significant changes from Snyder's original vision. The fans weren't happy, Snyder wasn't happy. And since then, those fans have been piling on the pressure for Zack Snyder's version of the film with a massive internet campaign. The hashtag Release the Snyder Cut trended everywhere. And in perhaps the biggest piece of fan service since Sonic the Hedgehog's design was changed, the studio listened, and Snyder got a chance to make his version.
He was given an extra $75 million to complete the movie, and a large chunk of that went on special effects. And now Zack Snyder's Justice League has been released. But the question is, how different is it to the original?
This world will fall. Like all the others.
Steppenwolf first showed up briefly. The current design, the Zack Snyder design, in the post-credit scene on Batman vs Superman. So that was a nice thing for us. We didn't have to do anything from scratch. It was just kind of a realization of that design that already existed and making sure that was up to scratch. And visual effects, 4 years is an eternity. So making sure since 2017 that it was looked A+ as far as 2020 technology goes. And then a nice thing from that was, so we did work on the look dev and the way his metal looked and that. But I think the most interesting thing was the character was such a different character in this movie that has a knock-on effect of facial animation is different, and then his body motion is different. He's got this aggressive, active armor, and that turns into being more aggressive in his motion and being like really just leaning into him being a different character.
Just 1 year to the next, we changed the way that we work, we changed the tools that we use to just keep on iterating and making the end result look better and better. So taking something from like 3-4 years ago and then updating it is actually a huge amount of work. The biggest, even in shots where we were supposed to just take Steppenwolf and swap him out with a new one.
First, nothing is ever that easy in visual effects. You pull on a thread of a shot and some, there were a lot of shots we had to just redo completely. And then a lot of shots where we just did the whole thing, we had a lot of shots that were just brand new work that needed to be in the movie to tell that story correctly.
Zack's got the chance to go back and do his sort of original vision for it, which is very big. I mean, the movie's nearly 4 hours long, right? So even scenes that we did have already done in 2017, like the Themyscira attack, like the history lesson scene, those are massively expanded from what they were last time around. So there's shots that were completely new to us. There were shots that were taken to a certain stage in 2017 before they got put on hold or put on ice. And so actually just updating and filling all of that out is a huge amount of work. Darkseid, but he actually existed already as well. He got to a reasonable point in 2017 before he was cut out and replaced in those couple of scenes with Steppenwolf. Darkseid was already developed as a concept, as a character design fairly early in the process, 4 years ago. So really it was a case of us just bringing him up to scratch, as Kevin was saying. And so I guess, I think the iterations you see, like changing from trailer to the final version of the movie, is still essentially the same character. It's just we had a bit more time to finish him off rather than getting something out for a trailer. It's actually more like 6 months rather than a year that we had to do the work. So it's even a shorter amount of time.
Visual effects is like being strapped to the front of a speeding train, and you can't reach the brakes, and that's it. Here comes the deadline. Oh, every show, it's always like that.
The time is now.
What's funny is this version is 4 hours long. Now, I don't think you get that in the cinema, but in a world of streaming, where you can pause and go to the loo if you need to, it seems to be totally okay.
Or you could just split it over 2 nights, or is that not allowed with a movie?
Don't suggest that, the fans will eat you alive, for goodness sake. Anyway, that is it from our mere 24-minute programme for this week.
Which, of course, you should watch in one go. But if you're missing us throughout the week, you can find us on social media, on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook and Twitter @BBC Click.
Thanks for watching and we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.